Good morning, everybody. It's 9 o'clock on our Thursday MLS breakfast meeting. We're 9 o'clock sharp. We're going to start the meeting right now. I am Ling Chow. A little bit about me. I've been volunteer for the Western Gateway Board since 2004, 2004, right? Almost 20 years, believe it or not. I want to share a story with you guys that happened with my sister. Is that not my sister, my daughter. I was thinking my daughter. She used to work at South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa. And she had a person walked into the store and asked her, oh, where you from? And she says, I'm from California. And the person says, oh, no. Where you born? Where were you born? And she says, I'm born in Monterey Park, California. And the person continued to ask, my daughter's laughing at me because I'm telling her story here. The person continued to ask, where's your parents from? And she says, my parents, oh, they're from New York. And the person says, no. Where is your ancestor from? She goes, oh, you're asking for my grandparents, where they're originally from? Oh, they're from China. And she turned around and did the same thing to this person. Where you from? Where you born? And the person ended up somewhere in Europe. They immigrated from in Europe. So the story is, the end of the story is, we're in America and we're in a melting pot. We're immigrants from all over the world. So I'm proud to be one of the immigrants from Taiwan. Thank you. Join us weekly virtual MLS breakfast meeting on every Thursday at 9 a.m. Register in advance for this meeting. After registering, you will receive a confirmation email containing information about joining the meeting. Social media and text alert. Facebook, we have, of course. YouTube, we have repeat meetings of the video that we have on education and as well as the breakfast meeting. And Twitter, Instagram, and we have text message service for update. So text to 72727. On the message part, put in WSGVR, and we will send you all the text information or information that we need to let you know. And we have of course, we have our website, WSGVAR.com. Quick tip, don't miss any email from membership@WSVAR.com and info@WGVAR.com. We have asset email contact with Gmail or Yahoo. Please make sure that you add WSGVR as a contact measure, your email, and go right to your inbox and are not marked as spam. Okay, so today our affiliate, our agenda is affiliate spotlight, brought to you by Mark Hu, Allstate Insurance. Speaker, our very own from the California Association of Realtor, Brian Polanski, our associate counsel. And to eligible for today's raffle, you must be a WSGVR member and your name must be displayed to win. We will not accept any telephone numbers. So our affiliate spotlight today is brought to you by our chair, Brendan Savrosky, the first American NHD, and our vice chair, Joseph Nguyen from Pillar to Post Home Inspectors.
Good morning, everyone. John Wax with SNAP NHD for all your NHD tax and environmental needs. I hope you're doing well, and I wish you a wonderful day and a great end to February.
Thank you. Nancy Chen from Lawyer's Title.
I'm from California too. Nancy Chen, Lawyer's Title. Thank you so much, Ling, for that share. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Nancy. Teresa Lam for Carthathian Title. I can't say the name today. Sorry. Sandy Franco from First American Home Warranty. I know.
Good morning,
Sandy.
everyone. I'm here. Happy Thursday. Sandy Franco, First American Home Warranty.
Thank you. Again, our very own Mark Wu from Allstate Insurance.
Good morning. I've often been told, hey, I speak good English. And I say, that's because English was my first language and practically my only language. Marco with Allstate Insurance for your property insurance needs.
Thank you. We call ourselves my daughter we call my daughter ABC, American born Chinese, but she says I'm Chinese American, but she's American Chinese. So there's a difference here, I guess, because she was born here and I was not. Next, Judy Chow from AAA Capital Investment.
Good morning, Judy Chow, Senior Loan Officer. I wish everybody a great week, and I really hope, I pray the war will not escalate. Thank you. Have a peaceful week.
Thank you. Marcus from
Hello.
Hey, Western Resource Title. Nice to see you, Marcus.
Nice to see everybody. Have a great caravan day. It's starting to open up, and we're here to help you. So have a great rest of the week and a wonderful Mardi Gras weekend.
Thank you. Next, Yunita Wu from Home Warranty America.
Thank you, Ling. Thank you for sharing your story as well. I'm Yunita Wu from Home Warranty of America, your 13 months home warranty. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Howard from Old Republic Home Protection.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you, Ling, for sharing your story. I too was born in Monterey Park, the Garfield Hospital. I went by there the other day and the hospital's still there. So to my surprise, it hasn't collapsed. But anyways, you know, we live in America. Let's just love each other. Whatever it is, our differences are. When you all look about it, we all want the same thing in life, and that's love, peace, and acceptance and compassion. So remember those 4 things and just be that person in your life and be demonstrating. So with that being said, if you have any questions on home warranty, just give me a shout. My information will be in the chat. Have a good day.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, we are ready for our weekly open pitching. I believe we have William Wei from Pinnacle Real Estate Group.
Good morning, I am here. Thank you very much, Lane. This listing is a townhouse in Monrovia, 3-bedroom, 3 full bath. So there's a full bathroom to each bedrooms. It's tri-level. On the street level is where your main level is, where living room, dining, kitchen, and there is also a bedroom and full bath on that same floor. On the upper floor is where your master suite is, and also there's a junior suite. And each of the suite has its own private balcony. On the bottom level is where the garage is. And as you enter from the garage, there's also another extra room that you can use it as an office or a yoga room. So this is a very intimate and cozy townhouse. And it's asking for $645, and I have to let you know that we've been instructed not to accept any offers below or at asking price. It is very competitive, so please bring your clients and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
This is a PUD in Temple City, 4-bedroom and 4.5 bath. So every bedroom has its own bathroom. It's well maintained. It was upgraded when they bought a new. Currently, it's tenant occupied, and we're working on a showing schedule for everyone, and it's most likely to start showing next week. If you have an investor who wants to keep the tenant, they're paying $3,500 a month, and they would love to stay here if they can. Please also let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much. This one is a pet grooming business in Rancho Cucamonga. It's right next to a pet supply shop, which and also the plaza is anchored by Pizza Hut and Starbucks. It's asking for $95,000. It's still negotiable. Please bring your clients if they want to open up their own business. Currently, there's only 1 employee, which is the owner. But you know, if you have more employees, you can take on more business. And boarding is also available as part of the service. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, William. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll continue to welcome our today's speaker, Brian Polanski from the California Association of Realtors. Brian is Associate Counsel for CAR. He has become staff coordinator for the CR Professional Standard Committee at the beginning of 2015. I am very fortunate to know Brian to discuss any professional standard bylaw or multiple listings issues and he oversees state level professional standard program for CAR. I volunteer for Ombudsman and many other pro standard issues for CAR, and I get to know Brian. He's very knowledgeable. He is he understands so much about pro standard, which I'm kind of afraid of him right now. So in case he tell me I did something wrong. So we have, by the way, CAR is a statewide trade organization, more than 180,000 members that include you and me as a realtor. So please let us welcome Brian Polanski. Brian, are you here? You're here. I know you're here.
I am here. Thank you so much, Ling. And I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to speak to West San Gabriel. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint presentation for you, and I'll be talking about a couple of subjects today. So here is the agenda. The first thing I'm going to talk about is a work group that took place with the CAR Professional Standards Committee last year, and the recommendations were passed in October. I'm going to talk about what those proposals were and what we're doing to implement them. And then I'm going to talk about Standard of Practice 10-5, which you may not recognize the number immediately, but this was the new standard of practice that NAR added to the Code of Ethics in 2020 related to hate speech, harassing speech, epithets, and slurs based on protected classes. I did actually talk to West San Gabriel about Standard of Practice 10-5 last year, but there's new information because NAR passed new case interpretations in 2021 explaining how this new standard of practice is going to be applied in actual cases. So we're going to go through some of those case interpretations, and following the presentation, I will be happy to take questions from the audience. So first, let's talk about the Disciplinary Complaint Filing Alternatives Work Group, just a little background on it. For a while, many CAR members were claiming both in surveys and in direct communications with us that they didn't want to participate in the local association disciplinary process through filing complaints against potential ethics violators, because they were saying that they don't report violations of the Code of Ethics due to the fact that nothing is really going to change after they file a complaint. There's no real benefit, and it takes a lot of time and effort to actually pursue a complaint. And some members felt that they wouldn't receive a fair hearing if they file a complaint, particularly if the respondent in the case is affiliated with a large or powerful brokerage in the market area. So in response to those concerns, we added an objective to the department budget, and that anticipated that there would be a work group created to come up with ideas to encourage people to participate in the professional standards process. And that work group was created, and ultimately the final proposals of the work group were presented at the fall CAR Professional Standards Committee meeting, where they were passed, and they were adopted by that committee and ultimately passed by the CAR Board of Directors. So all of the proposals went forward. And now I'm going to talk to you about what all of those proposals were and what we're doing actually to bring them to fruition. So the first proposal we have is to create a new pre-hearing broker-to-broker communication process and a modified Ombudsman Protocol. So the pre-hearing broker-to-broker protocol is something that we've added to the process for disciplinary complaints. And the way that this works is when a disciplinary complaint is received by the local association and the person who is complaining, the person who filed the complaint, is a realtor, they're going to be asked if they would like the association to arrange a meeting between the two brokers, the complainant's broker and the respondent's broker, before the complaint is sent forward to the grievance committee for review. So this takes place before we even get started, before we initiate the entire disciplinary process. The idea is that if you get the brokers together on a conference call, that it's possible they'll be able to hash out the issues and reach a resolution without needing to go through the entire formal complaint process. So it's entirely optional. The complainant doesn't have to agree, but if they do agree, the association will set up a Zoom call between the two brokers. And after the call, the complainant will let the association know whether it's going to move forward, whether they want to move forward with the complaint, or whether they're okay with dismissing the complaint if the pre-hearing broker-to-broker call resolved the issue. The new Ombudsman Protocol is somewhat similar because the idea is to get the broker involved early. So this is something that all ombudsmen have been trained to do now. For those of you who aren't aware, the Ombudsman program is available to members of the public and other realtors. An ombudsman is a trained volunteer at the association who tries to resolve disputes that involve a Realtor member. And the idea is to get these disputes resolved before they get to the point where we need to have a formal disciplinary hearing or even a lawsuit. So when first talking with an ombudsman hotline caller, the ombudsman is now always going to ask if they're comfortable with the ombudsman contacting, number one, the broker of the agent the caller is having a dispute with, and number two, the agent themselves. And if the caller says no, then the ombudsman won't contact anyone. They'll just talk to the caller. But if the caller says yes to both, the ombudsman will contact the agent first. But if the agent is non-responsive or doesn't want to talk to the ombudsman, then the ombudsman will next try to contact the broker to try to achieve a resolution. So we move things up to the broker if the agent isn't being cooperative with the ombudsman. So that's the new Ombudsman Protocol. All the ombudsmen have been trained in that. And the pre-hearing broker-to-broker protocol was added to the California Code of Ethics and Arbitration Manual. So both of these proposals are now fully implemented already. A second proposal involves a new program we created called the Professional Standards Ambassador Program. The idea here is that Realtor volunteers with professional standards experience are going to present at associations, brokerages, and other appropriate venues to explain to the general membership how pro standards programs work and how they can be effective. And the ambassadors are going to be able to answer questions that members may have about professional standards. We're working to launch this program right now, and we're recruiting volunteers. So if any of you on this call have any experience in professional standards, serving at least 1 year on the association's grievance committee or professional standards committee, you can be an ambassador, and I'll tell you how to do that soon. And by the way, if you aren't involved in professional standards at your local association, definitely talk to the people at West San Gabriel that are involved in professional standards and see how you can get involved. You can start by joining the grievance committee, and if you end up enjoying that experience, you can ultimately move up and serve on the professional standards committee. I know that the people that do it really feel like they're making a difference and helping to improve standards within the industry. So I highly recommend considering that if it's something that you haven't considered before. But anyway, if you do already have that experience, you can become one of these ambassadors. You'll need to take a webinar training presented by CAR. They'll explain what you have to do to be an ambassador, and we'll provide you with all the materials that you'll need. Volunteers are required to take the training on an annual basis, and for tracking purposes, you just have to submit reports about the outreaches that you do as an ambassador. So I have the link here, which I will actually copy and paste and put in the chat as well, just so everyone has it. And this is the link that you can use to register to be a professional standards ambassador. The training is going to take place on March 17th. It's going to be recorded if you're not able to attend on that date. It will be a Zoom training, by the way. Once you've completed the training, you'll be able to start scheduling meetings at both associations, brokerages, and any other venues to share information about pro standards. So that program is launching very soon, and it will be implemented within the next month. Next proposal has to do with regional and multi-association grievance and hearing panels. And the idea here is to have a program that promotes multi-association panels. And although that was already permitted previously in the manual, the proposal here is for CAR to take a more active role in making sure that associations are entering into contracts with neighboring associations to create these panels. It helps to kind of expand the pool of people who are able to volunteer and serve, and it really just makes the process more efficient. So the implementation here is pending. We're going to be contacting local associations and reaching out and seeing if they need CAR assistance, and that will happen sometime in the first half of this year. The next proposal calls for web-based fillable versions of the complaint response forms and a simplified disciplinary complaint form. Besides creating web-based versions of the complaint and response that will be easily fillable on computers, tablets, and smartphones, we also wanted to simplify the disciplinary complaints form so that the complainant only needs to provide a narrative of the violations, but they don't need to cite specific articles of the Code of Ethics or MLS rules or membership duties on the complaint form. For those that don't select any allegations, it will fall on the grievance committee to select the appropriate ones. So the implementation here is we're partly through that because the simplified disciplinary complaint form has been created already, but we're still working on creating the web-based fillable versions of the forms. We're going to try to get that done sometime in the first half of 2022, and then we'll get that out to the local associations. So the idea here is that what we're really trying to do is make it easier for people to file a complaint. And that's what both of these proposals here under number 4 are all about. The next few proposals have to do with taking some programs that have been optional for local associations for quite some time and saying that we want local associations to adopt these and have them as defaults. Now, they're still not going to be mandatory specifically because local associations can choose to opt out, but we're highly recommending that all associations do adopt these programs. The first of them is called the Ethics Citation Program. And ethics citations work very similarly to MLS citations. The way that it works is the association adopts a citation schedule for certain kinds of code of ethics violations. And for each of those types of violations, there's a fine that gets associated with it. Then when a complaint is received by the Grievance Committee reviews it, sees if there are citable violations in it, and they can issue a citation to the violator rather than send it forward to a hearing. The person issued the citation can choose to pay the fine and close the case, or they can challenge the citation and request a full hearing. The proposal here is to make ethics citations a default policy for local associations. So CAR created a guide to optional pro standards programs explaining how to implement an ethics citation program. We're always able to assist local associations that don't have it. I'm not actually aware as to whether West San Gabriel has this program already or not. So someone who knows maybe can talk about that in chat. But local associations do have until the end of the year to adopt it if they haven't yet, or can pass a motion opting out of it. The next optional program that will become a default program is accepting anonymous complaints. The idea here is that anonymous complaints work very well with the ethics citation program. So as a default rule, local associations are only going to be required to accept any anonymous complaints for allegations listed on the association's ethics citation schedule. So we understand that anonymous complaints don't necessarily work well for all types of allegations, but they do work well for certain kinds, particularly advertising violations. So the two programs, ethics citations and anonymous complaints, are going to help kind of work together to expedite certain kinds of cases and encourage people to file complaints. And again, associations have until the end of 2022 to adopt that as a default or opt out. The last program is the Ethics Advocate Program, which has been an optional program for a long time. Ethics advocates are trained members of the Professional Standards or Grievance Committee who are trained to assist parties in disciplinary cases. And by assist, I mean help them out with the complaint or the response. They can actually come to the hearing and assist them during the hearing, and they can also assist during the review process. So having an ethics advocate program really helps parties, particularly members of the public who aren't very familiar with the professional standards process. Not only are we going to make the EA program default for local associations, but CAR is working to create a statewide list of all ethics advocates throughout California, which can be used by associations that don't have their own trained EAs. You know, prior to a lot of pro standards hearings being conducted by Zoom, it didn't really make sense for EAs to be on a statewide list because, you know, they could only participate in hearings in their region because the hearings were being conducted live. But now that we're doing a lot of hearings by Zoom, it's possible for someone to have an ethics advocate that isn't in the same exact area as them. And so we're hoping that this statewide list can be used by associations that haven't trained their own EAs yet, although we're certainly encouraging them to train their own EAs. The next proposal has to do with an acknowledgement letter that's sent to the complainants. This is a recommendation that pro standards administrators send acknowledgement and appreciation letters. The letter will tell the complainant that their filing of a complaint is appreciated and that participating in the pro standards process helps to improve the professionalism of realtors both locally and on a statewide basis. And the idea here is just getting that acknowledgement will make people feel a little better about participating in the process and encourage them to do it again in the future. So there's a template acknowledgement and appreciation letter that's included in the 2022 edition of the manual. And the recommendation to send that letter is addressed in the training of pro standards administrators. So this is now fully implemented. And then the final proposal is new training and informational materials just to explain the pro standards process to the general membership. And this is really going to work in tandem with the pro standards ambassador program as well, because the ambassadors can get those materials out there. The materials are going to include short videos explaining the process to the parties that they will be able to watch before they participate in the hearing. So we're going to work with the communications team to create the videos and the other written materials. And once they're available, they're going to be on the CIR website, and everything will be provided to local associations to get those out to members. So this is still pending. We haven't created the new materials yet, but that will be coming soon. All right, so that covers everything about the new proposals. So it's a lot, and I really want to congratulate everyone on the work group for coming up with these ideas, and I think they really are going to make a big difference. The next subject that I would like to discuss is new standard of practice 10-5, and I'm still calling it new because it's relatively new, but actually at this point it is more than a year old. So let me tell you specifically what I'm talking about. On November 13th, 2020, the NAR Board of Directors voted to make some significant changes to its professional standards policies. And those changes went into effect immediately upon enactment. So as of November 13th, 2020, this new standard of practice went into effect. There's actually 3 proposals here, not just the new standard of practice, but the standard of practice is the big one. NAR added 10-5, standard of practice 10-5 to the Code of Ethics, stating the following: realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. So this was added to the Code of Ethics. And not only that, NAR revised a professional standards policy statement to expand the applicability of the Code of Ethics to all of a realtor's activities, not just real estate related activities and transactions involving realtors. The reason that NAR did this is they wanted to make it clear that standard of practice 10-5 does not just apply to communications that realtors make when they're talking about real estate. It applies to all of a realtor's activities. So anytime a realtor makes a statement on a social media account, for example, standard of practice 10-5 still comes into play. NAR feels that realtors can't just take off their realtor hat, so to speak, just because they're posting on their own personal social media account. So you should be really clear about the fact that this standard of practice 10-5 is going to apply to anything that you do, not just things that you do when you're, dealing with buying and selling houses. Additionally, and finally, NAR revised the definition of a public trust violation. These are violations that, according to NAR, need to be reported to state licensing authorities. So to the DRE, or for other kinds of violations like discrimination, to the Department of Fair Housing, potentially. So now the definition of public trust includes all forms of discrimination and fraud. Public trust violations must be reported by the local association to real estate licensing authorities in the state and/or other relevant governmental agencies. So these are the big changes that NAR made. The one I'm going to be talking about the most, of course, is the new standard of practice 10-5. And I don't want to go into all of the Q&As because I actually did talk to Wes San Gabriel about standard of practice 10-5 last year. But I did want to cover the main thing, which is that when a hearing panel is determining whether someone has violated this new standard of practice, there is a 2-part test that they should be using. So the first part, did the respondent engage in harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs? Number 1. Number 2, was that discriminatory speech based on a protected class? In other words, the classes that are listed in the actual standard of practice: race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. In order for there to be a violation, the answer to both of those questions must actually be yes. So that's why it's a 2-part test. So I want to make it very clear that I'm certainly not suggesting that anyone do this, but just because someone has engaged in something that is hateful or harassing speech, it's not necessarily a violation of standard of practice 10-5 unless that harassing or hate speech is based on the specific categories that are listed under bullet point number 2. And we actually have one of the new case interpretations that explains what I'm talking about. And so the next thing I want to do is actually talk about all of the case interpretations that NAR published throughout 2021 to kind of further explain how the new standard will be applied in actual cases. I'm going to go through all of those new standards of practice right now so that you understand what they are and understand what NAR intends with this new standard of practice. The first standard of practice that passed, 10-6, involved a social media discussion. And I think a lot of standard of practice 10-5 cases are going to involve social media posts. And I certainly think that NAR had that in mind when they created the new standard of practice. In this discussion, Realtor A made the following comment, and you can read it on the screen. I don't want to read it. A consumer took screenshots of the comments, including Realtor A's name, and filed an ethics complaint alleging a violation of Article 10 as interpreted by Standard of Practice 10-5. After a comprehensive review, the association's grievance committee forwarded for hearing. At the hearing, the panel reviewed the evidence presented by the complainant, including screenshots of the comments. Realtor A confirmed she had in fact posted the statements, but denied that making the statements interfered in her ability to provide equal professional services to anyone because of race. The hearing panel entered executive session and considered the intended application of Article 10. And the panel concluded that the comments that Realtor A posted constituted the use of hate speech and slurs, and they were clearly based on a protected class, based on race. And so Realtor A's defense was not accepted by the hearing panel, and she was found in violation of Article 10. I think this is a pretty straightforward application of Standard of Practice 10-5. I think you can clearly say that these comments are hateful, even though they're not made in the context of a real estate transaction. As I said, Standard of Practice 10-5 is still going to apply to comments like that. The next one, Standard of Practice 10-7, and this is the one I was talking about when I said, even if you're engaging in speech that's hateful, it's not necessarily a violation of Standard of Practice 10-5. So in this one, Realtor A was a registered member of a political party and routinely engaged in political discussions on social media and in private conversations. And those conversations often included insulting, intimidating, and hostile statements about members of another political party, including aggressively insulting their intelligence, implying they were unpatriotic, and telling them if they disagreed with him, they should leave the country. So Realtor B witnessed numerous instances where Realtor A was harassing others on the basis of their membership in that political party, and believed that Realtor A was using harassing speech. He filed an ethics complaint at the local association of realtors alleging a violation of 10-5. And the complaint was reviewed by the grievance committee, and they examined the allegations to determine whether, if taken as true, they would constitute a violation of the code of ethics. But ultimately, the grievance committee dismissed the complaint, as the complainant's sole argument was that Realtor A had discriminated against individuals based on their political affiliation with Party Z. And political affiliation is not a protected class under Article 10. So the allegations in the complaint, even if true, could not constitute a violation of the code of ethics. And so this is where, NAR is trying to show that it's really a two-pronged test. Engaging in hate speech, harassing speech, disparaging speech, in and of itself, that's not enough to be a violation. It has to be specifically based on a protected class that's listed in Article 10, and political party is not one of those classes. Standard of practice, case interpretation 10-8. In this one, a group of protesters supporting the equal treatment of women gathered peacefully for a march in Washington, D.C. The group requested and was approved for the appropriate permits, while local law enforcement was on site to provide assistance. In response to the march, the realtor posted on social media, "These morons have nothing better to do than come all the way to Washington to gripe about a problem that doesn't even exist. This is why women shouldn't be allowed to leave the house. Get back in the kitchen where you belong." So Realtor B saw Realtor A's comments, filed a complaint with the local association, alleging Realtor A's comments against the protesters constituting harassing speech, and that they violated Standard of Practice 10-5. At the hearing, Realtor B argued that Realtor A's comments constituted objectively harassing speech against individuals on the basis of their sex. In response, Realtor A argued that his comments were directed at protesters, which are not a protected class, and that in fact the group was comprised of both men and women. Well, that defense didn't fly. In the decision, the panel noted that while Realtor A's comments were addressed to a group of both men and women, they included disparaging, discriminatory comments specifically about women on the basis of their sex, such that the complainant had demonstrated with clear, strong, and convincing proof that Realtor A had used harassing speech and thus was in violation of Article 10. So it was harassing speech on the basis of sex. So we have that two-pronged test again, and it's a violation of Article 10 as interpreted by Standard of Practice 10-5. Our next case interpretation, 10-9, involves Realtor A, who is a preacher in his local church and stated before a group of congregants Lesbians and homosexuals are murderers according to the scriptures. And one of the congregants filed an ethics complaint against Realtor A, alleging this statement violated Article 10 as interpreted by Standard Practice 10-5. The complainant argued in his complaint that Realtor A's statement constituted hate speech. And this complaint was forwarded for a hearing. At the hearing, the complainant argued that Realtor A's statement constituted hate speech because the remarks were objectively insulting and offensive, and because the speech was based on sexual orientation, a protected class under the Code of Ethics. Realtor A testified that his statement was based on his interpretation of biblical scripture, and that his teachings were designed to help his congregants understand the true teachings of God. But the hearing panel found Realtor A did violate Article 10, noting that the complainant's testimony had provided clear, strong, and convincing proof that A's statement was intended to insult, offend, or intimidate, and that it was disparaging or abusive. And so the complainant's testimony further provided clear, strong, and convincing proof that the speech was based on one of the protected classes under Article 10, sexual orientation. So this is a violation. I think what this case shows is that going back to religious belief is not going to be a sufficient defense if someone engages in speech that is in fact disparaging or abusive or hateful. NAR case interpretation 10-10 involves another situation in a religious context, but here there was no violation found, and you'll see the difference. Realtor A leads a weekly Bible study group in the evenings, and during one such study group, A led the group in a discussion of biblical passages concerning homosexuality, referencing several differing interpretations of those passages. At one point during the discussion, Realtor A stated, some have said these verses clearly prohibit and condemn same-sex relationships. An attendee of the group found this to be inappropriate and filed an ethics complaint, alleging a violation of Article 10 as interpreted by Standard of Practice 10-5. And after comprehensive review, the Grievance Committee forwarded that for a hearing. And at the hearing, the complainant argued that A's statement represented his own personal beliefs about homosexuality. And A confirmed that the complainant had quoted him correctly, but argued that he presents all sides of biblical interpretation for historical context, and that he's careful to leave any personal opinions out of the study group. So here the hearing panel entered into executive session, considered the intended application of Article 10, and concluded that the comments were not intended to convey any discriminatory opinion and did not constitute the use of hate speech and slurs. So Realtor A was not found in violation of Article 10. And the big difference here is, even though there was a discussion of the Bible and references to homosexuality in it, it was not done in a way that was hateful or abusive or disparaging. And the realtor was not even conveying their own personal opinions here. So that is the big difference between this case and case 10-9. And then finally, our last case interpretation, and this one was actually a little controversial because when it was proposed at NAR, there was a lot of discussion about it. It did ultimately pass, but people were worried about kind of a slippery slope. I don't agree with them, and I'll explain to you why after we go through the case interpretation. So when searching real estate listings on a brokerage website, a potential home buyer noticed a listing with a Confederate flag prominently displayed in the property photos. She filed an ethics complaint against the listing broker, alleging a violation of Article 10, as interpreted by Standard of Practice 10-3 and 10-5. The complainant argued in her complaint that the Confederate flag is a symbol of racial exclusion, and that the listing broker's display of the photos conveyed a preference and discrimination based on race. This did get forwarded for a hearing, and at the hearing, the complainant testified that she felt threatened by the display of the Confederate flag and took it to mean that she would not be welcome in the home or the neighborhood if she were to make an offer on the property. The listing broker testified that he should not be held responsible for what is displayed in a client's home and could not offer an explanation for his client's motives in displaying the Confederate flag. So the hearing panel concluded that the listing broker is in fact responsible for the content he displays publicly when engaging in real estate brokerage. The panel also discussed whether the display of the flag indicated an illegal preference or discrimination. Using the standard of whether a reasonable person would think display of the Confederate flag conveyed a discriminatory preference, the hearing panel determined that the listing broker's inclusion of the photos, including the Confederate flag, could be reasonably construed as indicating a racial preference or illegal discrimination based on a protected class. Therefore, there was a violation of Article 10. So I want to tell you a little bit about the discussion when this was passed at NAR. There were a couple of people saying, well, isn't there a slippery slope here? Because couldn't various symbols be offensive to people? For example, aren't certain religious symbols offensive to people? And I think the best response to that is that the hearing panel uses a reasonable person standard. Would this symbol be offensive to a reasonable person? You could say that's a vague standard, but if you think about it, we use the reasonable person standard throughout the Code of Ethics. For example, in an Article 12 case, if we're looking at advertising, we ask, would this advertising be misleading to a reasonable person? So the decision as to whether a symbol that is displayed in real estate advertising would be offensive to a reasonable person, I think hearing panels are going to be able to apply that in a fair way. So this case interpretation did ultimately get passed and now is included in the list of case interpretations under Article 10. So that is all I have for my presentation today. I am happy to take any questions that you may have for me.
There is a question here. Do you anticipate NARCR losing a lot of members as a result of standard 10.5? It's from Jeffrey Hua. I am not tolerating that behavior. In fact, I'm fervently opposed to such conduct, but can't help but think the standard violations of First Amendment to the most basic level.
So, so far, I don't think we've seen any significant reduction in membership on the basis of this new standard of practice. In the frequently asked questions that we have about standard of practice 10-5, we address the issue of the First Amendment because it's something that a lot of people talk about. And some people say, well, it's not within the spirit of the First Amendment. I can understand that, but the First Amendment itself is about governmental action. And it's about the fact that the government cannot take any action to bar the freedom of speech. As all of you know, of course, CAR is not a governmental entity. It's a trade association that people join voluntarily. Of course, you can practice as a real estate agent or broker without joining the association. So this new hate speech provision, definitely not a violation of the First Amendment. I can certainly see some people saying, okay, but it's not within the spirit of the First Amendment. That's a debate that you can have, but definitely not a violation of the First Amendment.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, I have a question about the last one that you talked about with the
Sure.
the flag. So
yeah, I think that's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's kind of like I don't understand that the real. So you're saying if the seller put a flag that they want in front of the house is okay, but it's not okay for the listing agent to put a picture advertising the flag in front of the house?
Right. That's basically what the standard of practice is saying. The realtor is responsible for the images that they're selecting for the advertisements. And so the defense can't just be, well, you know, the seller had this in their home. As a realtor, you have to be thinking about what images you're including in your advertising.
So we should Photoshop it out?
Potentially, or you just find photos that don't include it.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see how that could be complicated in some circumstances, but that is definitely what the standard of practice, or sorry, what the case interpretation calls for.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, we do have we have a grievance committee and pro standard committee, but we have to be on the grievance first before you can move up to the pro standard committee. And if anybody would like to join the grievance committee, please register with our staff and we'll let you know how to join the grievance committee. The ombudsman, we do have too, Brian. We have several of us that works on ombudsman and also with CAR as well. But we do not take cases in Southern California for the ombudsman. We take Northern California. So the volunteer from Southern California, we work with people in Northern California, and Northern California work with cases in Southern California. I think you guys did that
That's
purposely.
right. Yeah. So to be clear, all of your ombudsmen work for the CAR statewide ombudsman hotline.
Right.
Yeah, which is great. Some associations like to do it differently and have their ombudsman deal with cases locally. But the statewide ombudsman hotline is for all the other associations that would like to direct members to that. And that's administered by us at CAR, and ombudsman can join the panel for that.
Yes. Well, many of us are on there. Still is asking if a status of Buddha is displayed or a picture of Jesus are displayed. Do we have to make sure that they don't appear in our photos?
So this was like the slippery slope argument I was talking about. I would say no, because remember the standard is whether a reasonable person would think display of this symbol would be convey a discriminatory preference. I would say most reasonable people would not be offended by the symbols discussed in that question. So again, it's ultimately up to a hearing panel, but I don't see how any hearing panel would find that to be conveying a discriminatory intent.
Okay. I think that's religion, isn't it? The Buddha and the Jesus are display are more religion. Okay. Sylvia is asking the link. How we just fill it out and submit it. That's it, right? It's not it's
just a registration form for anyone that wants to be a professional standards ambassador. Remember that the minimum requirements are serving at least 1 year on grievance or pro standards committee.
Right. Sylvia, it automatically submits. I just did
it. There's just a button that you press to submit the information. It gets submitted to us at CAR.
Okay. Any other question? If not, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. And I much appreciate your coming to talk to us about all the violation that we possibly will face. And thank you very much for your time. And oh, there goes this the link again. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much. I always appreciate the invitation to speak to you.
We'll see you probably next year again, Brian.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have the attendance drawing. The attendance drawing are for our members only, must be present to win. Your member name must be displayed, no telephone numbers. So we're going to draw 3 winners at $10 Amazon gift card. Winner must reply in chat box below with DRE name and email. If we call your name 3 times and you do not respond, we will move on. No exceptions. So let's start our $10 drawing for the Amazon e-card. Chase. Oh, Chase is here today. Hi, Chase. Are you here still?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for participating. Okay, let's go on. First, that was the first $10. Second $10. Chase, put your email address on the bottom, please, on the chat. Thank you. Jim is here. Jim, can you acknowledge yourself at the chat box? Please type in your email. Got it. Thank you. Congratulations. Last $10. Hi Ba is here. Hi Ba, are you here? Are you a member of ours? If you are, could you here? Oh, okay. Could you please type in your email address for us? Okay, so that concludes our 3 winners today. Congratulations. Join our education class. We have a 45-hour DRE license renewal continuing education on February 25th, which is Friday, tomorrow, 9:30 to 12:30. Cost is $85. The 2022 real estate legal update, which is next Tuesday, March 1st, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. The cost is free. The third is a CRMOS virtual training, engaging clients with metric. The Wednesday, March 2nd, at 9 o'clock to 10 a.m. Cost is free. Commercial seminar, tax issue affecting U.S. property investment. It's going to be on Tuesday, March 8th, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. and the cost is free. So thank you for joining us today. This concludes my program for this February, and I am done. So next meeting will be March 3rd at 9 a.m. And join us. We welcome Alan Ibarra with the Rocket Roofing. He's really good at the roofing thing. I talked to him, I asked him a lot of questions about roof, and he's so knowledgeable that I think we're, as a realtor, we probably don't know too much about roof. So a reminder that MLS breakfast meeting will remain virtual until further notice. Visit us at www.wsgvar.com and have a great day. It's cold, put on a coat or a scarf, stay warm. Thank you so much. See you guys next week.